Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Rahm. I want to welcome everybody here to today's webcast for the Fall 2014 release of Decision Lens. We're very happy that everybody could join. Go over a few kind of housekeeping things first. We will be collecting questions throughout the webcast, so that if you have any, please feel free to enter them into your search bar there. We'll collect those and answer as many as we can throughout at the end of the webcast. So today I'm actually joined here with kind of our head of product management, Sanjay Nayar. He's going to be doing some demos for us as we go, introducing new features within this new release. Again, my name is Michael Rahm. I work within the marketing department here, and we're really excited to kind of be going over all these new releases, all the features that we've had. This is a big, our next big release since our June release for the summer. And, in that release, we really kind of went over and we focused really on all kind of the powerful analytics and robust functionality that many of our users really wanted and needed. And with this release, this is really giving us an opportunity to extend a lot of those powerful capabilities, but also enhance and give, really all users more powerful insights and opportunity for analysis. And we'll kind of go through those and show you what those are going to be. And so there's three main buckets of information that we really want to go over today. Our user management and reviewer role, enhanced user experience, and lastly, our facilitator broadcasting. And a few of these have kind of multiple features built into those, but these are the three big buckets that we're going to go over today. So not to delay any farther, first thing we want to talk about is user management and reviewer role. And so we really, as administrators out there and people that are setting up all these strategic prioritizations, we really want to make sure that things are easier for you in your day-to-day operations. You'll see here now we've kind of made updates to the participant dashboard and really improving the user interface as a whole. So now from a single interface, I can really get a better idea and I can better manage my different groups and participants and priorities, as well as keypad assignments. You'll see up here in the top right-hand corner under the More section, I've got the ability to go into things like groups where I can now add a group, I can delete a group, and I can even actually see what members of my organization are part of that group. I can also go into Manage Priorities, and I can quickly adjust the weighting of a specific user within the organization. So, for instance, if we're making an IT prioritization call, I want my CIO to have more weighting in his answers, his or her answers that they're giving, so I can adjust the information. I can adjust that all from this single screen. I can also individually assign or auto-assign all of my keypads directly from the screen and then launch those keypads to start a priorities and rating session. So it's a great feature. We're really excited about kind of making the strategic prioritization process easier for everybody. Another big enhancement that we've made is the collection of our subject matter expert judgments, as well as our participant edit panel. And for our subject matter experts, you'll see on the left-hand side, that left-hand box, we've actually kind of now, visualized the assignment of priorities and ratings, and you've got a couple drop-downs there that will produce more detailed changes that I can make, and Sanjay is going to go over those in a little bit. But again, it's just an easier way and a visual way for people to be able to see kind of what each user has assigned. I can go ahead and make those assignments. I can toggle those on and off right there just by clicking on the image. It's a real big time saver, and it's a great enhancement that we think is going to make the entire process a lot easier for everybody. And then on the right-hand side, is the edit panel, where I can actually get a lot of really great in-depth information about my users packed into this small panel here on the right-hand side that pops out when I select my user. I can see things like kind of the process of where they are within the strategic prioritization. How many alternatives have they rated? How many criteria have they responded to? I can even do things like add them or take them away from groups, and I can assign them new roles, which kind of brings us to our next new enhancement. We've actually built in 2 new user roles into this, and this is really where we want to start giving, again, more access to analytics, more functionality to all the users in your organization for the decision-making process. So the 2 roles that we have now, we've got reviewer role and a voting reviewer role. And these are really made to make sure that everybody in your organization, that's everybody from analyst-level employees all the way up through key executives, have insights, have the ability to participate in these decision-making, in the decision-making process. So with our new reviewer role, you've really got the ability to view decision data without impacting any of the structure or the data. So you keep the, all of the information out there, but you're not giving them the ability to actually make any changes to that data. And then we also have the voting reviewer who can, again, look at all of the data within the decision-making process, but they can still provide judgments, and they can still provide some input into the process. So with that, I think it would probably be best to go ahead and pass the mic over to Sanjay. Sorry. Just one more. You've actually got, there's a few screens that are read-only and interactive. So on the left-hand side, you have your read-only screens and the defined steps to collect and optimize sections. These are things that, again, as a reviewer, I can go in, I can see definitions, I can see how people have, what input they've provided. But again, I can't go in and change any of that data because we want to keep the, the data integrity intact. On the interactive side, it's on the optimize step, and it's for the sensitivity analysis and allocate, but only on the output side. And I'm able to go in there, and I can actually create a couple of reviewer-based scenarios which will get saved, and Sanjay will show that as well. But there's some interactivity in there without, again, affecting the data of the overall decision. So with that, I'll pass that over to Sanjay and let him show you these 2 new enhancements.
Great. Thanks, Michael. It's always better to see things live in action to show you exactly what we're talking about. And as Michael mentioned, this is really more about enabling our end users and making things easier to use, more aesthetically pleasing, and that's really kind of what we're going for with some of the updates that are in the participant screen. You'll notice that the participant screen has a new look and feel to it, again, nicer on the eye. We've also kind of removed and moved things to the More menu that used to have different screens. So instead of having to jump to different toggles and different tabs within the participant menu, we've got one screen. We've moved things to the More menu that you want to manage and that you may not be accessing as often, such as managing groups, managing the priorities, and managing keypads. We also have the sidecar, the edit panel that we have on the right, that when you click on either the name or the pencil icon, the side panel, edit panel will come up and has a lot of information about this participant, pretty much everything that we know about the participant in terms of what they're going to be doing in terms of their ratings, the progress against ratings, if they have an email address, their role, what assignments they have, and groups as well. The additional work that you can do from the sidecar and the edit panel is any of these can be edited right out of the gate. So if I wanted to add a group, I can do it right from here. But I can also make changes from the participant screen as well. So if I wanted to change roles, I can do that. The other thing that we have added is the ability to have a much more granularity as far as what a user is doing, whether they're going to be establishing priorities or doing alternative ratings or maybe doing both. So this column here for establishing priorities, if you see the toggle here as active, then this user is doing the establishment priorities. And if this one is active, then they are doing alternative ratings. And we know that in talking to a lot of our customers that you might have different users who are doing different parts of this process. And now we've made that much easier for you. And I'm going to go ahead and we have a user here called SPN who's a voter. And I'm going to go ahead and just tile these so we can see this all in one view. And you'll see here that this view, SPN user is logged in at the bottom, and I have a facilitator logged in at the top. And for the SPN user right now, that person is doing both the priorities and the ratings, and you'll see that in their lobby they have the established priorities, and they also have the rate alternatives. But if I didn't want that user to be part of the establishment of priorities, I can click this toggle, and you can see that this is now inactive, and you can also see that the button's gone away, so that a user is not going to be confused as to which one they want to do. If I want to bring that back, you see the button comes back. If I wanted to also say I don't want this user to do alternative ratings, I can click the button. You'll notice that this user has actually already done a few ratings. So when you click this, you see that there's a dialog that comes up that says, do you want to go ahead and change that? And I say, okay, I have now disabled this, the button goes away. But if I do bring it back, you'll notice that the ratings also came back. So we don't want to lose anybody's progress that they may have done. So going back to our full layout, the other thing that's really valuable about the edit panel on the right is now an ability to do a multi-selection. So with the multi-selection, I can select a number of users and edit all at once. So if I wanted to edit, I can select a whole portion of users, and I can either change a role, I can change their assignments. So the assignments can be done either through the toggle on the left or through this edit panel on the right, where I can assign either priorities. So if I wanted to have all these users not do establishment of priorities, I can do it all in one go, hit apply, and make that change rather than having to do that one at a time. I can also email all these users with one click as well, and we have a gear drop down that this is where I would remove those numbers. So to show a little bit about the reviewer role, you'll notice that we have a new role under here for a reviewer and for a voting reviewer. A reviewer is somebody who has a pure read-only, and we'll get into some of the capabilities that the reviewers have. But you can also have a voting reviewer who is somebody who has those reviewer permissions to go in and look at a decision, but they also may be somebody who's called upon as a subject matter to be able to provide either establishment of priorities or doing alternative ratings. So you can have that sort of hybrid role where somebody is both a reviewer, but they're also a voter. So I'm going to change SPN over to a reviewer. And as the facilitator here, I have full reign to be able to go in and make any edits I want. So if I want to go in and edit names, I can go in and create groups. I can go in and add cost data. Basically, as a facilitator, you have the ability and access to everything within a decision. But for a reviewer, you may not want that. You may have somebody as a reviewer who is an executive in your organization that just wants to go in and see, how did you set up this decision? I want to look at the criteria. Or they may be somebody who says, you've gone through the process of doing all the ratings and judgments, and I want to see how the prioritization ended up. But you really don't want them to have full reign to go and potentially make changes, delete things, and change what the group has already accomplished. The other issue is you may have somebody who is a very in-depth analyst who's a reviewer. So again, you don't want that person to be able to go in and edit, but you do want them to be able to do some what-if scenarios on their own to say, based on what the decision is now, let me see what other scenarios I can come up with. So I'll go ahead and log in over here, and you'll notice that SPN is now a reviewer, and I have in my decisions I'm participating in, I have our fall WBNR model. And when I go ahead and click in there, you will notice that I have all the same screens that I have as a facilitator, but I don't have the ability to add, and you can see I see all the brainstorms, but I can't delete them. I can't add new ones. I can see my criteria tree. I could look at descriptions if they were there, but I can't drag and drop. I can't add another one. I can go into our participant screen. I can see progress against ratings. I can see group membership, but I can't add and change any of those things. And a lot of those screens are essentially what we would say a read-only, so that a reviewer can look at ratings and look at how different groups rated and how different individuals had rated, and they have the full capability to use the control panel and all the power that comes with that. But we also want to provide them a little bit of analytic capability. So there are a few screens, and Michael referred to them as sort of our interactive screens that the reviewer has, that they can look at these sort of what-if type of analysis analyses. One of those areas is in sensitivity. And with sensitivity, this is a really powerful screen of ours where we can see the combination of how the priorities are for different criteria and also how alternative rated. And if I'm a reviewer, I do have the ability to drag the bars and see the change column and see how my prioritization is changing. But you'll notice I don't have the save button that would be here for me to create a custom priority set. I can only revert out. But at least it gives an ability for a reviewer to say, well, what if I only cared about financial return? What does that do to my list of alternatives? I can export. So if I wanted to export that, I could as a reviewer. So if I wanted to share that, and I can always do a snapshot. But I just can't save any custom priority sets as a reviewer. In the allocation tab, we do have more capability for a reviewer to do more what-if sort of interactive capabilities. On the output side, you'll notice that the reviewer has the ability to see the portfolio score, see all the scenarios that exist here. But it may be a situation where a viewer says, you know, what if I wanted to not do this particular project? I have the ability to turn projects on and off. I can change the timing of projects. And as a reviewer now, I have changed the scenario. But again, you'll notice that the save button is not active because I can't save over existing scenarios. I don't want to overwrite a scenario that somebody had already created. But I can save this as a new scenario, which is a reviewer-created scenario. And you'll see that I've already got the pre-populated with my name and which scenario it's based on. And when I save it, you'll notice that there's a new section down at the bottom of these that has reviewer-created scenarios. So any reviewer, you may have multiple reviewers in your decision, they could create their own scenarios. They are not making any changes to these existing scenarios that I may have had, but they are now able to create their own ones, and any facilitator and any other reviewer can see those. And these can also be compared just like any of the other scenarios are with existing ones or other reviewer ones, so that I can look at, as a reviewer, do my own what-if type of analyses. With that, I think we'll jump back into the slides.
Thanks, Andre. Great. And again, this is, especially with these two roles, we really want everybody in the organization to be a part of the decision-making process. We want to be able to give those analyst-level employees who maybe aren't at the level where they're going to be giving judgments and things like that. They still need to know what's happening within the organization. They want to still be able to know what's happening. On the flip side of that, you have executives that need to know and need to understand everything, and you probably want some of their judgments and input into the process, but being able to give them kind of those broader brushstrokes of the entire process is definitely very, very valuable to them. So the next thing we're going to talk about is kind of the enhanced user experience of features that we've put into the product. As a software company, we really want to make sure that every iteration is giving you more value and enhancing the experience for all the users. And so the first area that I want to talk about is within our visualizations. Inside the bubble charts, especially, and those of you that have a lot of alternatives out there and you're using this visualization will understand that sometimes you can have very densely packed visualization with a lot of bubbles on it. Or maybe you have information, you have some outliers that you really want to focus on. With the new marquee selection option, I'm actually able to select an area of the bubble chart that I want to focus in on. You'll see on the kind of the top left-hand side, we want to focus in on that center section. The entire visualization gets redrawn, and now I'm able to, as an analyst or if I'm presenting this information, I'm able to focus my attention or the group's attention on the information that we want to highlight. Definitely very valuable, especially if you have a very densely packed bubble chart, you can focus in on exactly what you want to show. And if I want to go back to my original bubble chart, I just go ahead and I hit the reset zoom level, and it'll take you directly back to the original visualization. Another great enhancement is really being able to tailor a specific view, is being able to turn the data labels off for the individual bubbles. So previously we could either have all the labels on or we could have all of the labels off. Now I've got the ability to highlight specific bubbles and turn the labels on and off so that I can, again, focus the information that I want to be sharing with the group, or just really focusing everybody's information on specific data points that I want to make sure that we're looking at. Another great one, and I know a lot of people are going to be really excited for this, is new search capabilities. We're able to search now in alternatives, participants, and the allocate modules. I know we've got a lot of customers, a lot of folks out there that have hundreds, if not thousands, of users within the decisions that they're doing within their different organizations. They may even have hundreds or thousands of alternatives that you're rating. So being able now to quickly search and find the exact data that you need is not only going to save you time, but it's going to make the process a lot more enjoyable for everybody. If you need to go in and quickly edit a user, I'm able to search for that user. If I want to search for a group and make changes to that group, if you got a lot of groups, I can quickly go into the search bar, and as I start typing, my results actually start to filter as soon as I start typing. So very easy to find data, very easy to find the exact data that you're looking for when you're looking for it. Saves time. It's a great enhancement that we've made to the product. Another thing that I know people are going to be very excited about is actually importing alternative categories directly into Decision Lens. Now, previously you could import all of your alternatives, but not the categories. Now we're giving you the ability to actually select specific rows or columns, import those categories directly in, which is not only going to save you time, but it's really going to help you be more consistent with your data. We're going to take out the the possibility for human error, typing in and manually typing different group names, things like that. So another great enhancement that we're releasing here in the fall release. Excuse me. And then really now another great enhancement is the participant dashboard for offline analysis. This is actually a really great tool for you as an administrator or a decision leader to kind of export all of the data and figure out in an offline way, who are all of your participants, where are they within the process, how much information have they gone in and entered, are they part of specific groups, kind of all the information about the individuals and about the specific decision. You can export all of that now, and again, for offline analysis, sometimes we're not always connected. I'm able to kind of get that snapshot and take a look at where I am and figure out kind of who needs to do what and who do I need to help along within the process, and see if there's anything else that we need to do. So another great enhancement. And with that, I'm going to pass it back over to Sanjay and kind of let him show you all of these features now.
Thank you, Michael. So going back into ours, and I'll go through these quickly. They're all in a couple different spots within Decision Lens. So the first one is around the bubble chart capability. And as you all may be aware, that the bubble charts live within our visualizations and under the bubble charts drop-down. And you'll notice here that we've got one small change is that we are always not auto-scaling our value axis anymore. So previously we would auto-scale these to try to make the bubbles as large as possible, but small change is that we're not auto-scaling now, and that's really valuable in the sense that now we can really see what the quadrants of those bubbles are, rather than potentially skewing what that view would be. But as far as the marquee select, you'll notice that there's a lot of these bubbles that happen to be located all within the same area, and when I hover over the chart, you see that I have crosshairs that lets you know that I can select, and if I click and drag, it will redraw for me, and I can get a much better expanded view of those bubbles so that I can dive into that specific area, and if I wanted to change the way that these bubbles were colored by organization, I can focus in on just a certain set, however I'd like to do. And to reset, I can simply just go back to that zoom. The other feature is around the labeling. Again, there may be times where I don't want to turn all the labels on, which might be a bit too much, but I want to say, gosh, this is really the one that I am interested in because that one's such a high-cost project. I can turn these on one by one simply by clicking, and those labels are maintained even when I zoom. The other feature is around search, and search is in a couple different areas. The first area is alternatives, and Okay, I'll show you in the participant screen where we've also got search in the header of our page here. And when you search, if you click in it, the search becomes active. And what it will do is it will search the name and any groups that you have. So if I was looking for just the engineering group, as I type, you see that the list automatically gets changed, so I don't have to hit enter. But it really helps, and if I don't have any search results, it will give me that. But what this really helps with is not just the search to be able to find a particular user or find a particular group and see what their progress is, but it also for multi-selection. So if I wanted to assign all the engineering team one particular type of assignment, I can do that just by doing a multi-selection and making a change in the sidecar there. The other place where we've got a search box is in the Allocate screen. And again, the search here is searching on the alternative name. So if I wanted to find all the ones that had the name group in it, you can see that this automatically has updated for me. And again, from here I can make changes directly from these pages. For importing our categories, I'm going to go ahead and close these guys down. The import tool is outside of our the model in the lobby, and then right now we've got examples here of organization and lifecycle, but potentially I want to add another alternative category. Previously, I would have to enter those by hand or do a multi-selection and add them there. But what we've now added is, and I can show you an example of a spreadsheet. If I had a spreadsheet like this that we wanted to add color to our alternatives, and this spreadsheet doesn't have to be in any particular format. You could have just need the alternatives in a column and whatever the alternative categories in another column. So if I wanted to import these in, our import tool is next to the decision name, and when I bring that up, it will ask me to select the spreadsheet. Walk me through it. One of the new options here is alternative categories. So if I am importing alternative categories, the next thing it's going to ask me is where are the categories I want to import. They're starting from here all the way down to here. It'll ask me which column it's in to isolate which ones those are. And you'll notice that it automatically selected color as the name of my alternative category group. Really, that's because it assumes that the cell that's above the list is the name of it. If I wanted to change that, I can. If I wanted to call it something different, or if I wanted to add that to an existing category I had, I could do that. I'm just going to keep color. And the next thing it's asking me to do is which alternatives do you want me to map it to? This is my column with my alternatives. Hit next. Mapping one that doesn't, data center consolidation is now called DC consolidation. And success. And you'll see now that I have a new category called color. So it makes it much, much simpler to be able to add in that a new alternative category. If anybody's been working with this and have a whole lot of alternatives, I'm sure you'll be very happy to see that new capability. And the last new feature that Michael had mentioned is the export on the participant screen. Again, we have all of the data now in one consolidated view, and if you export that, you'll see that I can open directly from Decision Lens, and there are two tabs. Really, we provide every piece of information that you see on the screen. So you get the username, what their role is, are they doing priorities, are they doing ratings, what's the weight. We have auto filters for all the different groups, so if I wanted to say I just want to see the engineering team, I can just auto filter from here and say I just want to see the people who are part of the engineering team. So we provide that directly from the export. And then there's a second tab for any ratings progress. So we can say how many have been completed, how many have been assigned, what's the total progress, how many criteria assignments, how many alternative assignments. So again, if you want to export this to be able to do any analysis, that provides that capability. Michael?
Thanks, Sanjay. Again, a lot of great enhancements to the product to really make not only administration but everybody's experience within Decision Lens a better experience all the way around. So the last thing we want to talk about, and kind of the thing that I'm most excited about within this release, is Facilitator Broadcasting. Being able to kind of share information and make sure that people have all the information that they need is really important. And I know many of you in your organizations, everyone's not going to be in the same room at the same time always. We've got a global workforce that is all around the world, and so we really need to be able to get the information they need. We want them to be involved in the strategic prioritization process, in the decision-making process. We really want to make sure that they have the best possible way to be involved and to get the data. And so now we've really improved this information sharing with our Facilitator Broadcasting. And we've got some screens that actually have collaboration features, and I, as a facilitator, can broadcast that to people all over the world. And I can do that in a couple different ways. I can invite specific individuals to a broadcast. So if I just want to have a session, say, with Sanjay, he and I are going over some stuff. He's on the West Coast. We can still go ahead and do that. Or if I wanted to share and do something with the entire product management and engineering team, I can do that as well. So it's a great way for not only the facilitator to share information, but as well as participants to really provide information and be part of the process. A great new feature as well is we can actually now have multiple facilitators broadcasting from the same prioritization model. So this really speeds up the decision-making process. I don't have to wait for a facilitator to get out of the model. I don't have to wait for another person who maybe is doing something else to be ready. I can share information with the group or the specific person that I want when I want to, and at the same time we can have another facilitator in there also doing the exact same thing. So it's a great way, again, information is power, and being able to get your participants involved as much as possible within the decision-making process, within the strategic prioritization process, is very, very important. And so with that, I'll pass it back over to Sanjay, and he'll show you this new feature.
Thank you, Michael. So again, probably before we get into the broadcasting feature itself, one key change that we have, and you may have noticed earlier in the demo, is some changes in our lobby, in that now we are clicking the links to enter these decisions. We no longer have this orange enter meeting button that's on the right. And that really kind of rolls into how we have developed this new feature, because the concept of meetings and always enter a meeting is not really what we know that our customers are doing. A lot of times a facilitator or multiple facilitators would want to get into a decision to edit alternatives, to add users, to add cost data, to do analysis. And right now they can't. In previous versions of Decision Lens, they weren't able to do that. Once one person, the first facilitator, went into the meeting, the rest of the users were really essentially locked out of that meeting. And so we've gotten rid of this concept of enter meeting and have the lobby be clickable links whenever the user has permissions and is allowed to click those links and access those decisions. So what we want to do is, and what I can show you is that as a facilitator, and this window that I have now is one of the facilitators, and now we have the ability to have multiple users be facilitators in the same decision and be able to access that. So what I'll do is I'll change the same SPN over to a facilitator, and I'm going to go ahead and tile our screens again. And you'll notice that we have on the bottom that this link now for SPN is also active in decisions I'm leading, even though on the top the other facilitator is already in the decision. But I can go in here and I could potentially go wherever I'd like to go as a second facilitator. Maybe I want to add some costs. Maybe I want to add participants. And you can do this all concurrently. And any changes that I make, and you see here we have the data center consolidation, But if I am editing this as one facilitator, the changes will cascade everywhere, and you see that updated for this facilitator, even though they weren't editing that. So it allows a lot more flexibility for multiple users asynchronously to be able to edit and be able to manage decisions all at the same time. But now there might be times where and I'm going to just go ahead and untile us for a second. There may be times where you do want to do a collaborative session. I'm in here and I'm making my changes, but I do want to start a session where I want other people to be involved. And you'll see that up here where we have a icon for broadcasting, and there are two pieces of information with the broadcasting. One is to actually start the broadcast. You'll see there's an info bubble, and throughout our decision lens, you'll see these information bubbles. So if you get confused or you're not sure what a particular feature does, you can always read about that. There's going to be a little bit of information, and we also have our support portal that gives even more information about the broadcasting capability that you can always go into and learn all kinds of information much more in depth than you might get from the initial info bubble. So I want to make sure people were aware of that. But I can decide. So right now, as the facilitator, I'm in the decision. I'm making changes, but I'm not broadcasting anything I'm doing to anybody else until I decide to, and I can also decide who I want to. By default, I'm broadcasting to all participants, which is all people who are voters or facilitators. Reviewers are a separate group who are really just pure reviewers. But by default, I am going to everybody. But if I wanted to, I could change that and decide to only go to the R&D group or only go into the executive team. So it gives me that capability to decide who and when I want to broadcast to. I'm going to go ahead and tile one more time here. So you can see, actually let me go to participant screen and make our SPN user, instead of a facilitator, we will make them a voter. So now they are no longer be able to access that decision. They can go in and they can do their at your convenience ratings, but they can't go in and edit anything. Once I decide to broadcast, there are certain screens that I can broadcast and make collaborative. And those are the criteria definition, collection of priorities, and collection of ratings. And those are ones where any global participants can participate. When I want to start the broadcast, it'll ask me if I want to go ahead and do that. It'll start sharing my applicable screens. And you'll notice down here now that this link that was previously disabled is now enabled, and I also have the broadcast icon to know that this is a live broadcast going on. You notice up here for the facilitator who turned on the broadcast, we have a very prominent broadcasting is on, so that I know that this is the screen that I'm sharing, and I know that other users can be to get in there. So now, as the participant, I can come down and I can click on the broadcast link, and now for those collaboration screens, they'll be following right along and be able to provide input as well. And you'll notice that it's a little bit of a different screen. This screen has the navigation tabs. As somebody who's following along the broadcast, I'm not able to access, I'm not able to click those, so we maximize the amount of space that you'd see. Again, it's the fact that I have these two tiles, you don't have the full screen, but for somebody who is part of a broadcast, it's really a full screen view. And you can also see whose screen you're following and what the name of that screen is. I have full capabilities for providing a new brainstorm idea. You'll see that will show up on the list, so anybody who's part of that broadcast can do that. You also see up here that we have icons that show up when you are broadcasting to show which are the broadcasted screens. As I move into collection of priorities, you'll notice that as the participant, I now have the ability to place my judgments. There may be multiple people who are all part of this broadcast who are all following along the facilitator, and the data is updated as we go along. So the last thing to show is when there are potentially multiple broadcasts going on. I'm going to go ahead and close out of here. I have a second window where I have a second facilitator who's also part of the same decision, who may want to be having a broadcast session on their own. So this is really powerful in the sense that you could have multiple facilitators having separate broadcasts. So one group could be doing the establishment of priorities, another group could be doing the alternative ratings, or you could be having two different groups doing two different sets of alternative categories at the same time and not stepping on each other's toes and only doing those. So I'm going to go ahead and broadcast from here as well. as the second broadcaster. And you will notice that now there are two people broadcasting, and as the participant, I have a choice to say which one do I want to follow. Do I want to follow Sanjay, do I want to follow Facilitator 2? And when I make that choice, I can decide which one I want to. So it's a really powerful capability that's part of the broadcasting to be able to do two different at the same time. And when I'm complete broadcasting, the user's alerted. So if I am done with the broadcast session as a facilitator, all I have to do is hit the stop broadcast. Lets me know that I'm going to no longer share that screen. The user is alerted that the broadcast has stopped, and they'll be returned back to the lobby. So we'll give it back to Michael at this point.
Great, thank you. So obviously that's a lot of information that we've gone over. It's just with the facilitator broadcasting, it's really important that we want to make sure that our participants are engaged. It's also good to see that you folks on the webcast today were engaged. We've got a couple questions, a lot of great questions out there. I'm sorry if we don't get to answer your question. We had a couple themes running out through the questions. And so the first question, and Sanjay, I'll kind of point both of these to you because a little bit more on the technical side. How do the email addresses get populated when you enter them when you're creating a participant?
We use the email address as the username, and that's really what we push people to do. And in the future, a release that you'll see coming out in the next few months or so, we'll have a different way to register. But right now, if you use your email name as the username, then that will be populated in the participant screen where you can send emails from Decision Lens. So that's how you would do that.
Great. Another great thing about having email address in there too, I don't know if we saw this, but in the sidecar, I can actually email people directly from that sidecar to let them know, hey, you've got information that you need priorities and criteria that we want your input from. So please, directly from that. So another kind of added bonus for the enhancement. The second question is import now compatible with a .xlxs file format?
It is, and I probably should have mentioned that we have updated to be able to have all versions of Excel, so not just XLS. So if you do save an Excel workbook in XLXS format, the import tool will take those spreadsheets as well.
Great. All right, folks. Well, again, I want to thank everybody for joining us this afternoon. There's a couple things that, if you want more information, please go to our website. We've got all the information that we shared with you on our Fall 2014 release page. We've got short demonstration videos that you can re-watch, share with your colleagues, share with your friends, share with everybody. We also have another webcast in our Innovator series coming up November 13th. I promise you this is going to be a great webcast. I highly recommend everybody attend. This is Boost Your Stakeholder Engagement in Public Planning. We've got Dr. Allison Denton joining us on that webcast. So a lot of fantastic information that she's going to share with us on that day. And look, if you're interested in live training or a live demo, please contact us. We're more than happy to do that for you, share as much information as we can. With that, again, thank you everybody for joining us, and we hope to see you in the future.